skinny love just last a year. To pour a little soul we will never hear. My, 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 staring at the sink of blood across from you.
What we need in education is a much better understanding of students and learning from a motivational perspective, from a psychological perspective. Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking with your future, day in, day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality.
The correct answer would be to be passionate about like schooling, but realistically it's not really my passion. It's not what I do every day just because I want to. What I'm like seriously passionate about is like martial arts. Like I do Hapkido, so that's something like I want to do regardless of what time of day it is. I just want to keep going. Like if someone asks me about school, I try and shake it off as soon as possible. But when they ask me about Hapkido or how that's going, I'm ready to talk about it all night. Like, at the moment, I'm doing 4 times a week, just regular like classes, trying to get like this attendance up so I can do my black belt in September. I train for the demo team, the demonstration team that we've got. My goal has been for a few years now is to get black belt, and that's really close. Like now that's seems really like a achievable goal.
Training black belt test usually 7-8 hour test. Technical, physical, and your strong mind and sparring, everything this test. But now everybody not give up, still keep going. It's 8-hour test. Black belt way is first step. Start your split training. After more older, he doing uni and business too. How much you happening, your body pain, how much you can keeping going. This goal making, this minding training. That's why I'm just not conditioning, not health. How much your spirit, stronger minding. This one. Longer training, you can get it.
The best student never gives up on trying to learn what he or she needs until it becomes second nature, both in technique and attitude.
Difference. Yeah. He's going to have to come back to you.
If you find what really sparks a student's interest and and draws on their own goals, whether those are localized goals or even large long-term life goals, then that'll be the spark that starts the motor running and keeps them motivated to really persist with learning in that area.
School-wise, my long-term goal is to get into uni, and preferably some sort of a course that'll help me get into chiropractic science or physiotherapy, and then eventually work beside my dad in the practice that he's got. I want to be like a chiropractor or physiotherapist that focuses not like specifically on sports injuries, but I want that to be like a big part. When someone gets injured at training, I can help and I can feel more useful. Yeah, this sounds like back.
Get back to good. Your knee. Yeah, hold it. Yeah. Alright.
exactly right.
Yeah, keep holding the wire.
Oh,
Oh, 46 years old. That's good. Yeah.
other side now. They all said that it was
Not so good.
they either left it out or they said it was used to make fine tools.
Yeah.
Which is kind of true, but that's not what we use it for.
Good job.
Well, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is like you get ulcers and bleeding in your bowels, and that internal bleeding sort of led to iron deficiency and all these things that just made me really tired, and I lost a lot of weight because I wasn't eating, or anything I did eat I just kind of went straight through me. It's kind of gross, but it happened. But yeah, that I did keep trying to go to training, but whenever I got there I just couldn't do anything. I felt tired, I felt sick, I felt like I was gonna pass out, and I just couldn't do anything. And I just thought, and like eventually my mum noticed that I looked really ill, and it was just, she's like, no, we're gonna stop for a bit. And then that little bit, eventually just prolonged to a few years. I stopped everything for a few years, and
I told you to be patient, and I told you to be fine, and I told you to be balanced, and I told you to be kind. And in the morning I'll be with you, but it will be a different kind. And I'm holding all the tickets, and you'll be holding all the fines.
got myself back on track, and eventually it sort of empowered me to go back and prove everyone that I'm not that chubby little sick boy anymore, that I can be a lot stronger than I look.
Oh my goodness.
And then
And I told you to be patient, and I told you to be fine. And I told you to be balanced, and I told you to be kind.
let's go.
And now all your love is wasted, and then who the hell was I? And I'm breaking at the bridges, and at the end of all your life.
He get his confidence. He can try this, and when your children example is kicking, when you kick, he can. We know he understand the form how much he can. That's why how much he can, I make the target more low, and then slow up, and then make up higher. First, they kick short is high, he can't. But I show first low, and then he can kick, make the sound bigger. They happy. Oh, you can good kicking. Maybe up. Now high, he kick. You can. That's why how much he confidence making, this one is more important. Not kick first. How much he can do.
This stuff here is all my notes that I've written. So just reading through.
So that's what you wrote in your book in the 23rd of the 11th, 15. The words there.
It was over, there's multiple topics, right? So there's
Yep.
4 sort of parts we look at. They just happen to be color-coded.
So you did all of them.
Getting these dot points into my head so that for the exam in a few weeks, I don't have to look at it as hard as I have in the past. I'm not learning again. I'm just, I go through the syllabus and I go, the healthcare in Australia, to write about it for 3 pages. I have these, 6 these 6 points that I have to be able to write about. So like how's equitable in access and support for all sections of the community. That's there, equity of access. You talk about the equity of access.
You write down. Can we do like a 2-mark version on the blank page under those books?
I mean, I speak English. Yeah, sure.
The beauty of a blank page is it can be anything.
That's true. Very good.
Who will love you? Who will find? Who will fall behind?
Healthcare is equitable to a moderate extent, so that'd be one tick there. One tick would be for talking about the economically disadvantaged, because that's in a syllabus. It's a point how they are they are a priority population group. Another population group being individuals living in remote areas, talking about how they have limited access because of where they live and the services that they're limited to, such as emergency services of the Royal Flying Doctor Service. If it was an 8-marker, you'd probably talk about more than just two groups. There's 5 groups. So Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, the overseas born, the elderly, people living disability. If my study has been any good, it'll be right. Oh, pressure is on. Oh, that's it. 2, 4, yeah, there's 6. Those are the 4 other points I could talk about.
Do you have others for, or like the elderly one, for instance, of like, say your point is social isolation, and then there's that video that everybody shares on Facebook.
Harry, he's a joker, he's a funny guy. We kind of have a cool connection. Een beetje geknoeid hebben hier. Geïnteresseerd in een eitje hier ook? Ja? At first I thought just gonna help out a little bit, but you find out that these relationships are deeper than you would expect.
We zijn ook, nou, ik weet niet of ik het veel zeg, maar ook een soort vrienden onder elkaar.
Harry is really good with the ladies in here. Sometimes he winks at them and makes them laugh. Yeah, he knows how to handle the ladies. What I'm learning here is the longer you live here, the closer death comes. A few weeks ago, someone from my hallway passed away, and she was actually pretty close to me. So then you learn that, yeah, death is coming closer, but it's also part of life.
Met Patrick, daar hebben we altijd echt goede contact met elkaar. Natuurlijk hoort hij erbij. Maar we doen alles voor elkaar wat we maar doen kunnen. Hè?
Ja, zeker.
What do you think?
Not appropriate to Australia, but yeah.
Like 2 sentences in a point of an example where you'd be like, Humanitas in the Netherlands, giving rent-free students for 30 hours a week of socializing,
like
something
I
like
said,
that. I know it doesn't apply, but you see.
It doesn't apply.
Okay, but you're going to find examples like that.
So the leading cause of death for Australians aged 65 to 74 are vision and hearing loss, high blood pressure, and osteoarthritis. All this places a financial burden on the healthcare system. Very specific question. It's difficult to study for every single dot point, for every single question available for every single dot point.
But isn't that what's required? Like, do you think that
It's not required to be able to answer the question every single dot point for every single question for every single dot
Or
point.
maybe not for this exam, but for instance, the way that how you do this is how you're going to have to learn like specific things for, you know, continuing studying or the next stages of school, that it's not going to be like you get to give a vague answer, but you have to in fact look at specific examples.
If you're able to get a very specific example, then of course it would seem better. But if you're not able to, then putting a vague example but being able to link it well would give you just the amount of marks, same amount of marks. It's like saying, like in English, it's not about what you write down, it's about how you argue it.
The mark is for linking to the question and to your answer, not for what you wrote down.
Well, yeah, of course you get marks for answering the question. That's what I'm saying. You have to
That's
answer
like
the
that's
question.
what you're saying. The priority is answering the question, not demonstrating knowledge.
Yes, the school system is messed. Yes, they look at how you answer the question rather than.
But say
what
looking
you
at
know.
the parts that like you're most interested in, like that's why I'm asking you about your favorite subject rather than going back
I
into
don't
English.
like this
like
part of this syllabus at all. You picked it up.
Okay, but this is my point about that. That's why I was asking what part. Remember the last question when I was over there was what part of PDHPU do you not like, and do you realize that no matter what you do, there's going to be parts that you don't like, and that you're going to have to like deal with anyway.
I don't want to suggest that this is a straightforward thing of find your spark and everything else happens from that. It's not that simple.
Like I could spend all my time watching little videos like that, being like, oh wow, that's so fascinating. Netherlands has figured out how to deal with the fact that the elderly are isolated, which, you know, increases levels of depression or whatever.
So we can do this for much longer.
Okay, great.
I'm very hungry. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Go on.
That's like an initiative, and therefore, you know, if you find out how other countries are doing things to fix problems for priority population groups to make health more equitable, then that's a way that Australians could
They could, but
do things. Yeah, no, they probably don't. But like that's why I'm saying that you can't say nursing homes are a way to address that. Or like vaguely that might be the right answer because it is, but like in reality it doesn't fix that isolation thing because as this little video showed, it's like
But on
they're-
paper,
they're isolated.
it does.
Yeah, but okay, we're talking about, you're saying the HSC doesn't matter, but like what happens next is like how much are you interested in
Exercise and sport rather than health status of Australians.
if you end up becoming a sports scientist, physiotherapist, any of these like long-term goals, then not only will it be to fix people hurt in Hapkido, but also to figure out how to fix elderly patients who you know probably don't get out much, don't walk around enough.
Oh, I'm not going to go visit them every day and say, oh, you're going to go for a walk now. Like, it's you leave it up to them. Like I said, it's up to them whether or not they choose to access it.
Say you've got a client who comes in and you're seeing that they're inactive and that's promoting osteoporosis or whatever, and how do you get them
go and walk? Like,
Yeah,
you
but do
go
you think-
part of organised sport.
So do you think that's your entire like your
You
entire
can't
treatment
make
plan
them do
is
anything.
You could say,
You can't.
hey, so I see you're living in Cardinal Freeman Village, which is a nursing home which we've been to, you know, when Panos Szymański was living there, or with the nursing home visits. You're like, it's a nice place where people are like by themselves, but there's this other nursing home just across the road at Pitwood Nursing Home, and say they started having free rent for Sydney Uni students who do 30 hours of community activities, and that means that they're interacting with other people. So, you know, they might go for more walks or social outings.
Give
or
them the
something like
option
that.
whether or not they take it is up to them. Like I'm saying.
Sure, but I'm saying that could be part of your knowledge of
The area.
treatment plans or the area or
That's
community.
the area. It's very specific
Exactly.
to the area that you're being very specific. It's like
I'm giving specific examples that we can like relate to rather than vague ones.
yeah. Well, if I was to see someone who's inactive, I can't put a gun to their head and say go be active.
That's
like
true. The expression
tell them-
is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Exactly.
But
So
are you leading a horse to water, or are you saying there's water over there? It's on you to go find it. If you're elderly and immobile and you have osteoporosis.
What do you want me to like?
I'm just saying,
there's
like,
nothing
what
you can
parts are
do.
you
You can
interested in?
tell them, look, like take them to the water is telling them, no, showing them what they do, doing it, helping them when they see you. Whether or not the horse wants to drink when it's by itself is up to it, isn't it? So whether or not you lead the horse to the water for the first time, whether or not they go back because they're thirsty is up to the horse. Once you show a person how to get somewhere, you're not going to say, I'm going to take you here every single time now. Maybe if you lose your way, I can push you towards the water.
I don't want to suggest that, that this is a straightforward thing of find your spark and everything else happens from that. It's not that simple. Very often the role of parents and teachers will be to help students persist in the early stages of learning, providing that external motivation to help them reach a point where it becomes self-motivating. I can do this. Wow, look at what I can do. Hey Mum, look at this. And listen to this. And that sort of, that will often not come easily. But by reaching that point, by doing that deliberate practice, you get to a point where it does become self-fulfilling. And that's when things really take off.
Dad got you these posters, didn't he?
Sure, yeah, he did.
And do you look at them?
Yeah, they're on my wall. Walk past them every
Do
day.
you had some knee problems a while ago.
I did. Because this was pulling everything off to the side, the kneecap was kind of off track as well. So you know how like when my wardrobe malfunctions, I can't move it because it's off its tracks?
Yeah.
Same thing that kind of happened to my kneecap. So what happened was like, so this is like the part that like the cap is meant to like track on, but because of the muscles pulling it off to the side a little bit.
So do you know what caused that?
Oh, the tightness in the... I think it's because I was doing so much exercise and activity prior to the whole Crohn's disease, and then as soon as I got it, I stopped everything all of a sudden. And then as soon as I stopped, I just stopped doing everything, so all my muscles got kind of confused, and they were like, oh, okay, this isn't right, but then they were kind of tensed up, because I just ceased activity like all of a sudden, so everything just kind of stopped and tightened. What I was doing is I was doing like a spinning kick, and what you're meant to do is you come off your heels so that you can spin.
Step drop.
At the time I didn't, so my knee stuck, and so my knee kept turning, and so all of a sudden all I heard was a really loud pop. That's all the movement I could get at the time, like that, because the meniscus, which is, where was it? I think it was more on it was here. It was really close to a tear, and because I strained it so far, it kind of freaked out. So all I had to do was I had to tape up my leg so that it wouldn't overstretch it anymore, so I couldn't go further than like here. Had to keep trying to extend my leg. Neuromuscular facilitation stretching. It's stretching with a type of resistance. A good example of that is when you're like stretching your neck, when you're bending it forward, rather than pulling your head forward, you're trying to bring your head back, but you're still pushing it forward. So it's like strengthening the muscle as well as kind of stretching it out a little bit. Like it's good obviously to just hold it, do like static stretching and grab and hold it, or like bounce or swing, because they stretch out the muscle. But with that, like it's a bit harder for those kind of muscles. But like with the lower back, you can do it where like you're going to, like when you're lying, like sitting down trying to touch your toes, it pushes you back, and you're like trying to resist, but like being pushed forward. So it strengthens the muscle. So strengthening the muscles around the knee are really important. So I did lots of so basically every time I had to be sitting down, I'd just go forward like this and tense this muscle here, so this muscle on my leg, and I'd tense it, I'd hold it for a good 10 seconds, and I'd lower it, rest for 5 seconds, and then go back up, hold it, and tense this, because then if this was strengthened, then it would pull everything back this way, so it'd start tracking properly again. but I've learned to kind of work around it.
That's the thing about Gonski. It was Australia's first attempt at individualised education. The initial report recommended needs-based funding, which most people think of as funding special needs resources. But Gonski's working right here at Fort Street Selective High School, because the needs of gifted and talented students are as individualised as special needs students. Grit is just the latest buzzword in self-directed learning, which experts agree is the future of education.
I very much see education changing both in Australia and around the world towards a situation where students are increasingly have the opportunity to explore their own interests, work with their own particular abilities. There's a role for both the teacher and the student to figure out what's of interest. But I would also want to say that you won't truly get motivated by something until you've put in the hard yards to develop fundamental skills.
I don't even have any good skills.
What do you mean?
You know, like nunchuck skills, bow hunting skills, computer hacking skills.
Anders Ericsson's work on deliberate practice argues that in order to achieve very high levels it will be necessary to put in a very, very large amount of practice, and not just any practice, but mindful, deliberate practice, typically involving substantial feedback from a mentor or mentors, in order to really work at your at the point where real improvement is still possible. So not just settling for good enough, but pushing past that.
I push people beyond what's expected of them. I believe that is an absolute necessity.
I want to be one of the greats.
I would never let him put my son through hell. Why would you let him get away with what he did to you?
There are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job.
Doing that work will often not be particularly fun. It will take substantial effort. Arguably, it will take grit. We were talking about Finland, about how we might actually draw on ideas from other settings that seem to be doing okay. Probably need to commit to a generation of doing that thing.
Yeah.
And whether the media or political cycle has the patience for that, I'm not sure. If only we were Finland.
So here's what happened. Back in the day, Finland's schools sucked on the level that ours suck on. When they tested the world's kids, both Finland and us were usually about the same, somewhere down the list of nations. But Finland didn't like that. So they tried some new ideas, and in no time, Finland shot to the top of the world. Their students were #1. How did they do that? That was the one question I wanted an answer to, and I went straight to see the enemy's Minister of Education. Before I could say anything, she blurted out their top secret.
They do not have homework.
Wait, so you reduce the homework you give them at school?
Yes. They should have more time to be kids, to be youngsters, to enjoy the life.
So they have no homework. What if all they want to do is climb a tree?
They could climb a tree, yeah. They can climb a tree, then they learn how to climb a tree. But they'll end up, while climbing the tree, probably finding out about different insects, and they can come to the school next day, tell me about what they found.
Compared to the older kids, how many hours a day do the younger ones go to school?
Mondays, 3 hours. Tuesdays, 4 hours. It varies. It's 20 hours a week.
So they're, oh man. Now, does this 3 or 4 hours at school include the lunch hour?
Yes.
How are they learning anything? How are you getting anything done?
Your brain has to relax every now and then. If you just constantly work, then you stop learning. And there's no use of doing that for a longer period of time.
Finland students have the shortest school days and the shortest school years in the entire Western world. They do better by going to school less.
Here, it's so student-centered that when we had to redo our playground, they had the architects come in and talk to the kids.
Were they listened to?
Yes, there are things on our playground that the students really wanted.
We try to teach them to be happy person, to respect others and respect yourself.
You're concerned with their happiness?
Oh yeah.
What the hell do you teach?
I teach math.
So the math teacher says the first thing out of your mouth of what you wanted these students to get out of school was to be happy, to have a happy life.
Yep.
And you're the math teacher.
Yeah.
When do they have their time to play and socialize with their friends and grow as human beings? Because there's so much more life around than just school.
You want them to play?
I want children to play.
And that was the principle.
So far, the best idea I've heard about building grit in kids is something called growth mindset. This is an idea developed at Stanford University by Carol Dweck, and it is the belief that the ability to learn is not fixed, that it can change with your effort. Dr. Dweck has shown that when kids read and learn about the brain and how it changes and grows in response to challenge, they're much more likely to persevere when they fail because they don't believe that failure is a permanent condition.
Co dzisiaj zrobiłeś trochę?
English cały dzień. 5 godzin przechodziłem.